Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. So, listen, among other things, we wanted to talk to you about these polls everybody's talking about. Can you explain to me, as a pollster, why does Washington ABC News, why do they publish a poll they admit is another outlier?
Boy, you're going to get me in trouble. Steph. I do not like to talk about fellow pollsters. Everybody's got their different secret sauce, their different methodologies. But I got to be honest with you, when they have to put out a poll that they themselves admit is an outlier, had some methodological questions behind it, and put it out under the banner, I think it's a problem, especially when then you see it picked up. I watched This Week with George Stephanopoulos, and they presented those poll results as gospel. There was no qualifier about the fact that
Yeah.
these numbers looked a little bit out and looked a little bit different. So I like you, question why they would even put it out. I know that it was probably a very expensive poll to conduct, because without getting into pollster geek speak, they did a method called random digit dialing of basically all numbers. I probably would have gone with a voter file myself to be a little bit more precise. But the fact
Yeah.
is, they did it, they put it out, and it is what it is. But the good news is, most of the other analysts and pollsters are saying and describing it for what it is, which is a poll that I don't think reflects the facts today.
Yeah. Well, by the way, you just piqued my interest at something because I thought, I don't know about y'all, but I don't answer any number I don't know.
No,
I
not
don't feel
anymore.
like anyone does.
Not anymore.
Like,
No.
so I don't, that's what I mean. I don't get how, can you explain how polling works?
Let me give you a dissertation here in maybe 30 seconds or less. Look, it is true that there are less what they call cooperation rates in the past.
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago, you could get somewhere like 50% cooperation rate. What that meant was, if you call 100 numbers, you might get 50 people that are actually on the phone and answer to be willing to participate. Those numbers have indeed plummeted. But what hasn't changed is, as long as you have the right distribution of the sample, meaning there are still people willing to talk, it is still representative of that age cohort. It just makes it harder for us pollsters to get polling done when we're in the field. It might take an extra couple of nights or two, or you might have to do several thousand more interviews to get to your completes.
Yeah. I mean, because everyone keeps saying it's just, the red tsunami, like the polls obviously have been wrong a lot. And this one, just so people know what we're talking about, it was the poll that said Trump is up by 10 points on Biden, which, of course, on cue, we all freak out, right? And think, how, oh my God, 4 indictments, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like a lot of times people call those voter suppression polls because they seem designed to make us either panic, lose hope, right? Depressed turnout. I mean, talk to us about that.
Yeah, for starters, there's something that I think the American electorate needs to understand, especially those that are the wet the bed Democrats, who see a poll.
I got a lot of those.
They don't want to leave the house for a week or two. I understand the sentiment, but the most accurate way to measure the presidential contest, Stephanie, now is through the battleground state polls.
Yeah.
The states that are going to decide the electoral college, which, like it or not, those are the rules of the game. So if you're looking at polls in those states, we're talking, of course, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Nevada. Those are the polls that I'm looking at to see where the race really stands. The national polls are interesting, but I don't think they are the right barometer. And then the other factor is, look, the Republicans have their race going. They've got an open, competitive primary, although Trump's not making it very competitive looking. Whereas only now are you seeing Biden and the Democrats engage in campaign mode. Let's not start getting concerned unless we see these results a year from now in the battleground state polls. Then I think you can hit the panic button. For right now, I don't put much stock into this.
Speaking of bedwetting, what do you make the polling showing all the majority of Democrats want Biden to step aside or Kamala Harris to step down? I mean, they make me crazy because it seems to me like it's the stupidest thing we could do. Well, what do you make of that?
Look, the only poll of Biden, whether he should step down or not, in my judgment, should come from his doctors, right? Like if his doctors come out and say, look, he can't do this, the job's too much. They're saying exactly the opposite, Stephanie. They're saying, look, this guy is in extraordinary health. He's in command. And more important, we have seen it with our own eyes. I mean, as much as the Republicans want to try and turn him into Dementia Joe, every time he gives a major speech or is addressing, whether at the G8 summit or others, he's clearly in command. He knows what's going on, and he's delivering on these results. I think Democrats need to stop it They need to accept the fact that Joe Biden is running for re-election. And up until the moment that a medical doctor, professional, or someone in his family says he can't do this, we should lean in and embrace this president.
Yeah.
He's done a tremendous job, in my opinion.
Plus, me too, Fernand. Plus, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. There's Trump, this Jabba the Hutt in a golf cart that can't drink a glass of water, that just said Jeb Bush got us into Iraq. And there's Biden on his bike and looking and sounding great to me. Like, I was saying, I feel like psychologically this polling, like asking over and over, is Biden old? Is Biden too old? Do you think Biden's too old? Don't you think he's old? Like, then they go, oh, we just got this poll now that shows people think Biden's old. I'm like, isn't there also a power of suggestion in the question in polling that Biden's too old? Right?
You know, let me break some news on this program.
Yeah. Pardon me. Hang on.
Yes. Joe Biden is old, right? Old. But you know who else is old? Mick Jagger, and he's going to be selling out the Staples Center when he takes the Rolling Stones on tour there, because everybody wants to see what Mick has left to give and do it up on stage. It just came out last night, a report that scientists said we are on the brink of most Americans living into their 120s, right?
Yeah.
So, look, we're breaking boundaries. Biden is breaking boundaries up and until the moment when he says he can't do it anymore. It doesn't matter. It's like, these questions are ridiculous. If FDR was on the ballot against a much younger Adolf Hitler during the World War II era, even if it was FDR's corpse, we would still be voting for a guy in the administration that would be leading.
Weekend at FDR's.
Right, exactly. So enough with this stuff. Biden is going to be the nominee, and there's no reason why he shouldn't run again and be the nominee.
Yeah, our brilliant friends for Angela did just do a fantastic rant about it. They said we're going to black mama for dinner. This, like, what's for dinner? Biden. You want a Happy Meal? You're getting Biden. That's what's for dinner. Biden.
And you're going to like it.
Yeah, that's what's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's talk about all the factors that might be at play in 2024. Hillary Clinton, who might know, said Putin will be eager to interfere in 2024. She said she was positive he meddled in the past elections. Obviously, that's been proven, and is ready to sow discord in next year's voting cycles. She said the Russians have proven themselves to be quite adept at interfering. That Putin has a chance he'll do it again. She said, and I think that's the other thing. She reiterated about U.S. intelligence officials talking about he did meddle in 2020 as well. It just didn't work. Obviously, Biden still won. But she said the modus operandi is he hates democracy. He particularly hates the West, and he especially hates us. She called on Americans to take a stand against the authoritarian dictator and his apologists and enablers. We have to reject a kind of creeping fascism of people who are really ready to turn over their thinking, their votes, to want to be dictators. Talk about that factor for a minute in 2024.
Let's just first focus a minute on what you said about former Secretary Clinton. Can you think of a time, Stephanie, in the last 20 years where Hillary Clinton has made a statement about anything? Whether
it's wrong.
Politics,
it's been wrong.
Policy,
Never.
And she's been wrong?
Yeah.
I know that she's made some controversial statements when she called Trump supporters deplorables, and they were, everybody's hair went on fire.
Sure.
And guess what? You know what they all turned out to be?
Deplorable.
Worse than deplorable.
Right. So I find this idea that people are going to question the judgment of Hillary Clinton to be personally offensive, because it's been almost a 1,000 batting average over the last 20 years. She's absolutely right. We know that Putin's very existence in this case, unlike in the 2016 election, may very well ride, Stephanie, on whether or not Joe Biden is reelected or not. Because we know if Trump, God forbid, I don't even want to utter it into the universe, if he becomes president again, the funding for Ukraine will stop instantly on a dime. And that's the lifeline Putin is looking for. So, of course, Putin is going to try and do everything in his power, in his desperation, to stay in power by trying to influence this election again.
And by the way, once again, mainstream media, not a help in 2016. And I know you retweeted Jen Rubin, who said, press not much interested in the ex-president calling to execute the former chief of staff. Where are the professionals, the adults with news judgment and a sense of responsibility? I don't see them. The GOP is completely gone off its rocker, incapable of passing House spending, ranting and raving at AG, cooking up ludicrous and baseless impeachment, unable to greet Zelensky with a joint session. This is not normal. This is egregious. You'd think the reporting would reflect it. Well, once again, it doesn't. It's all about clicks and ratings, right?
One of my favorite reasons, besides spending time with you, of course, of coming on the show, over the entire Trump presidency was kind of like a no gaslighting zone, right? This was the sanity check.
Right.
Yeah.
As we would constantly say, we cannot normalize the abnormal. And I think Jennifer Rubin's comments are exactly right. Unfortunately, Trump has kind of figured out this hack of the media, which is if you say enough outrageous, crazy, disqualifying things and engage in enough outrageous, disqualifying conduct, eventually people are just going to move on and normalize it. But to your point, I mean, he threatened the life of still the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That in and of itself would be behavior that should end your freedom and political career, because that's a threat to be taken seriously. And as a former president to say that, it's just unconscionable. So
Yeah.
I do think the media, unfortunately, those that want to butter their bread with ratings keep going back to the well that is Trump, because there's a lot of money there.
Here's another factor. You tweeted about Brian Kemp said he would still vote for Donald Trump, and you just said how a personality cult works. It brings me to my point about how we combat it. Will Bunch wrote a piece about Taylor Swift could be democracy's last best hope. She just got, I don't know how many young people registered, like a zillion. Mm-hmm. She has 278 million Instagram followers. Yep. He writes, I've said in the past, the Trump personality cult has turned the GOP into an anti-democratic movement, not a political party. I now believe defeating this MAGA cult will require not just a counter movement, but a mass movement that saves our politics by transcending politics, led by the best and brightest of pop culture and moral virtue. I mean, we're going to need every tool in the toolbox, aren't we, in 2024?
We really are. And I guess my only concern, not to be alarmist, because I do genuinely feel the Biden administration team has done an extraordinary job governing. But, I'm not sure, Stephanie, that we're setting up the country and really have the alarm bells off on DEFCON 1 where they need to be. Because just like we saw in 2022, in 2020 and 2018, every one of these elections is a choice between ending or keeping American democracy as we've known it for the last 250 years.
Oh, hi. I'm here with sexy liberal John Fugelsang wearing my Los Angeles sexy liberal shirt. Oh, my God. We have an LA show coming up October 21st. But how else could you see it, John?
How else could you see it? I'm so glad you asked. For a limited time, you can see the show live via pay-per-view if you go to sexyliberal.com. All the laughs, you'll miss nothing.
I can stream it from all around the world?
All around the world, in your car, while you're driving. Watch it at home.
Sexyliberal.com, yeah.